welcome. We are back in the lounge for episode 29. And man, we have a busy man who's got his toe dipped in a bunch of different things. We're talking about films, daily TV, a bunch of comedy. We got podcasts and everything. I'm not sure how you do all of this under the same set of time that all the rest of us do, but Nick Rado, thank you for joining us on the lounge.
It's amazing to be here. Thank you so much. I just arrived yesterday and I couldn't think of a better place to hang out on my first official day here in the States. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Man, welcome to Sacramento, and tell the audience where you're from.
I'm from New Zealand.
Yes.
So yeah, this is actually like this is a big podcast with a lot of people here because our country is not small. This is this is better than most of our TV studios.
Really?
So yeah, it was a very small country, and I've been here for as I said, just arrived yesterday, and yeah, I'm probably one of the few stand-up comedians doing this in America, which is crazy.
Incredible, man. And we're super excited. And just to be able to reiterate what you're here for, what a great response to our podcast with Turner Sparks.
Yeah.
And you and Turner, you go back, man, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we go back maybe 14 years. So we originally met in Hong Kong at a place called the Takeout Comedy, which is in Hong Kong Comedy Festival. We were both there for, I think, 2 weeks doing the Hong Kong Comedy Festival. And we just bonded over that time together. And we were aware of each other's careers, but we sort of went our separate ways. And then just before the pandemic, he was releasing an album. And I just jumped on and said, hey, congratulations on releasing this album. And he was saying, thanks, man. What are you up to? And I said, I'm about to do something similar. And then he goes, well, why don't I put you in touch with a couple of people I know and see if they'd be interested? But just to be aware that they don't really get back to people, so don't expect anything. And then I would say maybe a day later, I sent off my stuff to the States, and then they said, we'd love to do some stuff with you. And then that was like 2-3 years ago. And then maybe 3 comedy albums later, we're, in about 5 years' time, we're sitting here in Sacramento, which is fantastic.
Incredible, man. Chris, what are you doing Saturday night, man?
I'm gonna be front and center with Joe.
Yeah.
My fiance and I are gonna be there. We got I don't know if I told you this, Joe, but Weston and Steph are gonna be coming out with us. So pretty fired up about that. So
yeah.
And then we're gonna see if we can maybe corral you when the show's done and take you out to some of our favorite Sacramento digs.
Oh, that would be amazing. That would be fantastic. That's the kind of stuff that I'm loving, is the behind the scenes, the local element and stuff. So yeah, so it's been a crazy wild ride. Like in New Zealand, we only have one comedy club. It's a full-time comedy club. It's called the Classic Comedy Club. And so it is kind of rare for us to get a lot of stage time and a lot of build our comedy careers there. But we're doing our thing, and we try our best. And I think when I started in the UK. I did 5 years in the UK doing the UK comedy circuit. And then when I came back, I did all of the gigs that there were to do in New Zealand in 6 weeks. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to be a professional, I'm going to need more gigs than this. So we started up this company called Laugh Club New Zealand, and then we just put on our own shows, and then built and built up that, and then that became bigger, and then we started getting overseas comics coming to our shows, and then we got introduced to them, and then vice versa. And then because they were coming down, I get to open some pretty cool comedians that come and visit on their world tours and things like that.
Man, that's incredible. So it's taken you a lot of places, and it's brought a bunch of people there.
Yes.
Who are your favorite that's come to New Zealand?
Oh, so a big, like one of my all-time favorite comedians, Nate Bargatze. He is killing it at the minute, and I've been a fan of his for a while. And so previous to him coming, I did this dry bar special. So like that's got millions of views online. But the whole thing with it is it's you have to do clean stand-up comedy, which is like no sexual references, no swearing, and kind of no politics really. And so that's what I do. And so I went over to Utah, but I didn't realize what Utah is or was, or the backstory of Utah.
Yeah.
So it was quite like okay. I understand what's happening here.
Yeah.
And the dry bar was like I learned that there's no alcohol there. So
Yeah.
they're like just sober and coming to the show, and I'm like, oh, okay. And so bear in mind, this is the first time I'm performing in America.
Yeah.
So I don't know if my jokes are going to fly. I don't know if they understand me. I don't even know if they know where I am. And I did one show before that, a Wise Guys comedy, and that was my only gig that I did to warm up for this special. And in hindsight, a lot of people are going, that's crazy. What were you doing? People build their whole careers to get to this, and you just turn up the day before, you do one show, then you record these two recordings.
Yeah.
And then so on that recording was a guy called Brian Bates, who is part of the Nate Land podcast. And he is good friends with Nate. And so we had these great shows together. He saw how good my show was, vice versa. And then Nate was coming to New Zealand. And so by chance and by, happenstance, I ended up opening for Nate when he was in New Zealand. But I wanted it so bad for us to be the greatest of friends that it all fell over. So fast forward to New Zealand, and Nate's doing the show. I get told to arrive at the theater at 6:00. And no one's there, and I'm like, I've been fooled again. This is a prank. What's going on here? And then they don't turn up until like 6:40, so like 20 minutes. And I'm supposed to be on stage at 7.
Oh my God.
And so he comes with his entourage, the guy called Joe Zimmerman, fantastic New York stand-up, and a couple other people. I think his like assistant Chase is there, and so I'm in this separate dressing room. They go into another dressing room. And then I'm sort of sitting in my dressing room, and I hear them come in, but I can't come out and just go, hey, how's it going? So I just sort of be cool and stay in the dressing room until I'm thing. So Chase, he goes to another dressing room, which I soon find out now it's another dressing room. And I was like, Nick, do you want to come in here? But that was Chase. That was him saying that. I thought it was Nate.
Yeah.
So I come in, I go, oh, this is my chance. Go in, and I go into his dressing room, and I go, hey, man, my name's Nick. You called for me? And then, and he goes, nah, man, that wasn't me. I think that was my tour manager or my assistant. And I was like, oh, okay. And then so I just have to walk out. And then I go to Chase. I'm like, hey, Chase, how's it going? He goes, hey, mate, have you met Nate yet? And I go, yeah, I think I kind of did. And he goes, let me introduce you. And then I had to go back in and go, oh, this is so embarrassing. And so he was super lovely, super nice. But I just, when you want something so bad, like I thought we were just going to be best friends forever. And then it's like, oh, that blew my one chance, blew my one opportunity. And but the show was fantastic, and it was great to work with, someone who's killing it. When like you meet people and you see people at the top of their game.
Yep.
But you see them, but then you go, oh, well, this is possible.
Yes.
And that's inspiring more than like, oh, I'm nowhere near that. Yeah. It's kind of, that's what I got from hanging out with them. They're just normal, great guys, super friendly, but super hardworking. Talent, yes, but it's the work that they put in, which is the inspiring part, because if you work hard, you can go get it.
Oh, I love it. I love it, man.
So I want to talk about that. In my mind, clean comedy has to be more difficult to do.
It takes longer to write. So initially when you write it, and especially with local as well, because you can absolutely kill it with local stuff and it does take longer to write, but it's so much more worth it, and the audience appreciates it a lot. So where I train and where I call it training, but when I go up in the comedy clubs, I have to make sure my stuff is as good as, if not better than, the person who's just come before me. And even if they are the filthiest of comics or whatever, and the crowd loves it and they're just round of applause, I have to follow that and not only use that energy, but sort of almost jujitsu it to kind of like, or judo it to come with me.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I'm quite hard on myself when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And it's never the audience's fault. Even if it is an impossible situation,
Yeah.
I try and get to that point where it's like, if I can make my material so strong, even though it's clean, a lot of times people go, they don't realize it is until afterwards, and they go, I think that was clean.
Yeah.
I don't think he swore or did
Yeah.
did anything like that. And that's the ultimate goal for me, to go to any club and follow anybody and then go, and that was a bonus.
Oh, man.
I mean,
yeah.
Nate does. I mean, he knocks it out of the park doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a huge market for that. And that's again, that's why I wanted to be mates with him so badly, because it was like when you see somebody who is doing what you're trying to achieve
Yep.
and being a success at it, and it's not to copy or to even like say that I am him or want to be like him, because I want to be my own
For sure.
entity, but it is a great way. It's always hard to be the person with a machete in the jungle going, is this the right way?
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, there's a massive cliff at the end of this trail. Let's go back another way. But
Yeah.
if someone is even carved half a path, it just makes it
Oh, for
a little bit
sure.
easier for you to come through. And that's what I'm excited about it. But it also enables me to then, like talking about, following different people. So I opened for Aziz Ansari as well, which was fantastic.
Oh, man.
Chelsea Handler was
Chelsea.
so different to
Oh,
me.
I love her, man.
Well,
She's not clean.
She is not. Yeah, and she's totally different. And she made it real clear to me at the beginning, you're only doing this because someone pulled out. There was a female comic in New Zealand.
Oh my God! So she sounded a little brash.
Yeah. So she was like, someone had pulled out, and I was like a last minute replacement. I only found out maybe like 4 or 5 days beforehand. And the person who pulled out, I know the comedian, they're a fantastic comedian, but for whatever reason, they couldn't do the show. And so as an opportunity for me, and Chelsea normally doesn't get straight white male guys to open for her.
Yeah.
And we met, and she was quite guarded, and she was like, oh, okay, so you're going to do this. Okay, well, have fun out there, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. There was a bouncer outside her door. There was like a doorman outside her door. And there was no other reason for that doorman to be there other than to stop me from going in, like, because I was the only other person in the theater that could be in the theater. So it was like this trust level was very low.
Oh.
Very low at the start of this show. And then so I went out there. I had to introduce myself on. Because normally, like, someone will go, hey, it's my special guest, or, you're going to love them. They're a local, but I've invited them or whatever.
Yeah.
But you just introduce yourself on. So
crazy.
I had to go, and I've got it on my Instagram, actually, Nick Rado Comedian on Instagram. You can see on there, I did like a reel of what happened, because I got a video of the intro of my set. And it's me introducing myself, and I had to say, ladies and gentlemen, are you guys ready for the greatest night of your lives? And everyone's like, thinking Chelsea's coming out. And I go, please, welcome to the stage, Chelsea Handler's opening act. And I walk 3 steps, and it's probably maybe 25 steps because it's a huge stage. I walk 3 steps, applause is nothing. So it's gone from to 0. I can hear my footsteps going to the mic.
Way.
I put my drink bottle on the stool, and you can hear with like 1,800 people, you can hear my drink bottle land on the table, and then you get that little that squeaky out of the mic type thing, and then I'm like, hey, how's it going? And then start from that, and then I did my thing, and then luckily because I'd opened for a few people before, I've got quite a few opening for people jokes.
Yeah.
And so basically I just call the elephant in the room and just go, you guys don't want me here. Listen, it's not my dream job as well, but let's work together here and try and make the best, because this is 20 minutes. And
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Wow.
But then when not only won them over, but like I heard Chelsea in the wings, and she was laughing.
Really?
And so and that was really, as a comedian, that is a big deal, because you're playing to the audience, but if you can get the comics in the back of the room or the side stage as well, that's like
That's awesome,
that's a big
man.
thing. And so when I came off, she has this minute intro to her show where she does all her like credits and builds the show up and
Yep.
builds the thing. She comes onto this like really upbeat, powerful music. But in that minute, I come off stage. She comes up to me. She gives me a big hug. She goes, big hug. She goes, "You were great. That was so funny. You're so funny." And I was like, "That was so good." And I was like, "Great." And I said, "Are you going to have a great time out there?" And she goes, "Oh, brilliant. Fantastic." And then she goes, you should hang out after the show." And I was like, and I had to say to her, "Listen, I'd love to, but I've actually got another show to do," which is true. And I had to go from 1,850 people to a football club fundraiser.
You had to pass up on Chelsea
Which was like front like 120 people. And when I got there, it was I don't even think there was a spotlight. It was just a mic, me in the corner going, "Oh, okay." So I said, "Okay, whatever." And then so she comes out from after that minute, comes on stage, and then she goes, "Let's give it up for Nick Rado. He's my son. I've only just met him
Oh my
tonight,
God.
That's
but he's
so
now my
good.
son," and da da da. And so, yeah, that's the power of what we're saying of how, yes, clean comedy's hard, but if you work it hard and if you make it so robust, like that shouldn't work in no way should that
Yeah.
work, right?
Yeah.
But because I'd done the 10,000 hours and I was hard on myself on the smaller shows, then when it comes to that opportunity of like, it's almost like hard work meets opportunity
That's
type
right.
situation. And so that for that moment was like, oh, well, that could not have gone any better. But it was, great experience. But man, I'll always remember that moment I always remember the sound of those footsteps, of those last 18 footsteps to the mic.
What a long walk.
Yeah.
Was that the only time that you got to be around Chelsea Handler?
That was the last time.
I'm a little disappointed in you right now.
I know,
Now,
right?
I want to like pick this apart real quick, all
Okay,
right?
right. Yeah.
I can immediately tell that you are a man of your word and you're very humble.
Right.
I can just tell that right away.
Okay.
Because if it was me,
Yeah.
I'm not doing the second gig at the football
Yeah.
place. Chelsea
This is my
Handler,
shot.
Yo,
This
Chelsea,
is my shot.
and Kendra will be okay with me saying this because Kendra's that's my fiance, a huge Chelsea
Right.
Handler fan.
Right.
She's pretty smoking, number one.
You're right.
She's incredibly funny.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine what the after party would have been like hanging out with Chelsea Handler.
Man,
Right.
seriously.
I know, right?
But
Yeah.
my guy's a man of his word. He had a second gig, and by the way, like
Yeah.
that's kind of like I'm sure Chelsea was like, "Damn, all right, like
Yeah.
you got to take off. Sounds
you
good."
you big time, Dirk.
Yeah, you
That's
big
what you
timed
did.
it.
Yeah, that's it. I like to think that. But I just want to also say that the Birkenhead Football Club raised $2,004 that night. So it was worth it. It was worth it. And I think they got some new footballs and a couple of shirts. So
So that I apologize if I missed that part. Was that also in New Zealand?
that was in New Zealand.
Got it.
Yeah, so that
Is
was
this
in New Zealand.
is this your first U.S. tour?
This is my first US tour. I've been here before to do specials. I've got a couple of specials out on Sirius XM, I think it's called here, and with Comedy Dynamics is the company. But yeah, this is my first US tour. Hopefully, one of many to do here. And I love performing in front of American audiences. You guys are fantastic, and the fact that it's kind of like because I've grown in the dark in New Zealand and no one really knows who I am, but it's doing that, as I say, more than 10,000 hours. It's now kind of like, okay, now coming out and it's almost like a celebration. It's like, okay, we're ready, we're good to go. Let's go get it. So yeah,
I
that's
love
the
it.
thing.
I
Yeah.
love it. And you showed up yesterday? Is that what you
We
said?
showed up yesterday.
And then what'd you do yesterday after you showed up? Where did you
We
perform?
performed at the I'm gonna say probably the name wrong, but Throckmorton Theatre.
Yeah.
Throckmorton Theatre. Robin Williams, R.I.P. used to drop in there a lot. It was his like home theatre. Dana Carvey would pop in there and drop in there. Amazing to perform, and this is what I love America. Like you like I was in New Zealand like 24 hours earlier. And I was literally dropping my kids off at swimming lessons. And then I like fast forward 24 hours later, I'm in the same theater as some comedy greats performing on stage, and it was an amazing show. And yeah, it was phenomenal. And I was in Mill Valley, which is very affluent part of, I'm going to say,
just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. You're exactly right.
Yeah, they're very well to do, and the vibe I got there was like I felt homeless just walking around. Just I'm doing
Good
pretty
call.
well. I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I felt like I didn't deserve to be there. I felt like they were looking at me with sorry eyes.
Oh man.
It was an interesting time, but yeah, it was a great and again, to go from that to do my stuff and for them to laugh at my jokes and to get that crowd as well that's crazy to me.
It is.
It's so crazy to me that I wrote these jokes, in my room in New Zealand, and then to be able to tell these jokes and for it to resonate with people in Mill Valley or Sacramento or Utah or New York or wherever, or Hong Kong or even in the UK as well. It takes longer, but it's so worth it if you can just make it international, but also funny. So it's not like hack or cheesy or easy. It's there's a fine balance, but it's worth it.
I love it. I love every bit of that.
So did you fly into San Francisco?
I flew into San Francisco.
Okay, and then Mill Valley. Did you? I heard you guys went to Joe's house. Was that after the show?
After the show, so we got home at midnight or something like that. It was 1 a.m, and so I got to see little suburban Sacramento. It's exactly what we see on TV in New Zealand. It was amazing. I had to knock on and look behind walls to see if it was a set because it was so picture perfect. Yeah, it was great. I loved it.
So today's kind of like a little bit of the day off. What are the plans after the podcast?
So the plans after the podcast today is to go right. So so I'm working on some new stuff. I'm working on my new hour at the minute. So and I'll probably try and write some stuff in and around. I don't know. I don't like to force that kind of stuff. But I'll be writing this afternoon with Turner, and we're doing the Sophia Theatre this Saturday, which would be so fun, and it's going to be an amazing show. Turner was in great form last night too. We sort of we've kind of been warming up to the big night on Saturday, and if it's anything like last night, it's going to be a heck of a show.
Oh man!
So we can't wait.
I can't wait either. I feel like this is like quintessential me when I know that somebody's in from out of town, but better yet, out of country.
Yeah.
And they're visiting our country. They have a short little time and they've never been here before. I'm like, come on, man. When are you going to be done writing? Around 7, 8 o'clock?
Yeah.
Because I have a pool.
Yeah.
Joe, do you have a pool too? Joe's got we go figure it out. Our friend Weston, how we met, he makes his own cider.
Oh.
So maybe we can tip back some ciders.
Of course.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Because for me, all of those opportunities means there's jokes in there somewhere. Something's got to happen. And
100%.
A pool hopping, cider making in middle suburbia Sacramento. I mean, it's a setup already.
Well, with your accent, I thought you just said pole hopping.
Oh,
and I was like, what
exactly.
the hell?
Yeah.
What is this man talking about?
Yeah, exactly. That's Saturday night.
That's Saturday. So had you done any? I know that comedians, they do a little recon, a little research on the areas they're performing. So have you done any research yet in regards to Sacramento?
Listen, it's so weird to me that Folsom Prison is here, and you've got Johnny Cash Trail, but Johnny Cash didn't live here or grow up here, but you have really invested in a lot of. It's kind of like me and Nate Bargatze. You guys have invested in a lot of Johnny Cash in terms of and I feel like it's not reciprocated. He played here once or twice type vibe, but there's a whole trail dedicated to him. And I love that. I love that about a town. Because we were joking that Australia does that to New Zealand, where they just claim New Zealanders as their own because it's we like them. Yeah. And so but there's so many great things here. The gist I get, or the inkling I get about this place is that this is the place you come to be close to everywhere else.
Oh my God, yeah. There we go. There we go.
Yes.
So
It used to be that way.
Right,
We're
right.
like evolving now.
okay, I
Oh,
hear you.
So, you know,
Okay.
like, you know, there was
That's the sensitivity behind it, man. You're right,
Yeah.
still, man.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah, yeah.
I'm
You know what this reminded me of?
Yeah.
And you were with me. So I don't know if you remember when they had the Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle tour. This was like, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, I
Oh,
think it's a
yeah.
couple years ago now.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And
I went to it. Yep.
nothing like was more explosively funny when Chris Rock started doing some like crack rock jokes about being caught late at night in Oak Park. And I'm like, oh shit, he did his research.
Yeah.
Because like where we're at right now, this is
Totally.
considered North Oak Park.
Okay.
And our buddies who built this 3-level building,
Yes.
they're developers, Micah and Sam.
Yeah.
They own, they're realtors as well, and they kind of like over the last 10 years have helped. Some people will say gentrify,
Yeah.
but revamp
Sure.
Yeah.
what once was. This is the oldest neighborhood in all of Sacramento.
Wow.
But moral to the story
Yeah.
is for quite some time, and in still some parts of Oak Park,
Yeah.
if you find yourself walking the streets late at night,
Yeah.
you might see a prostitute and some crack cocaine.
Okay. I see.
So,
I
anyways,
hear you.
yeah, Chris Rock did his little due diligence on
Yeah,
that, fitted
amazing.
into his joke.
I have a feeling after you're done writing and you're hanging out, he could give you all the scoop about how to
Oh.
talk
Yeah, if we
shit
could just
about
spend
us.
like
man.
an hour together later, I
Yeah.
swear it'll be beneficial for Saturday.
Because the selling point I got for Oak Park was that it's 4 hours from Tahoe.
2.5.
2.5.
2.5,
Okay. All right. It's even better.
Yeah, we're like 2.5 from everything great. Man.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
We got a lot in here, man.
So I'm a cyclist and I cycle every week, and it's
Oh.
funny, like literally every week I'm on that Johnny Cash trail. So now
Oh, yeah.
now I'm gonna be thinking of
Yeah.
you when I'm on my Friday morning ride on the Johnny Cash trail.
Yeah.
man.
The funny thing is, in New Zealand, we have a Johnny Cash trail as well. So
That's-
no, we don't. But
No, I was
it's,
about to
yeah, I was gonna say we don't. Yeah, but we may as well.
Oh man, and then continue with what the outlook is for here. Obviously, we know about Saturday night.
Yeah.
How long are you out here for? Where else are you gonna be?
So this is like dipping a toe in at
Yeah.
the minute. So just out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I've got lots of different projects happening. I've just released a short film that's going quite well at the minute across all the different comedy festivals as well. There's one in Palm Springs. It's been an official selection in Palm Springs, Houston Comedy Festival. There's been some Leicester Square, London comedy festivals as well. And it's a comedy short film about a motivational speaker who's had to move back home with his parents. And it just follows this like delusional guy who is still having to keep up the motivational speaking spirit and coaching people online and things like that, but his whole life is just terrible. But that's going. It's really funny. It's online. It's called Mission I'm Possible.
And you wrote this, right?
Yeah, wrote, directed, and starred in, and it's just we filmed it like in an afternoon, and
Wow.
it was just like a. Yeah, I have to give credit to my mate Joe Bohr, who is another comedian in the UK, who took all the raw footage and he just made this film out of it. And I was like, here you go. And he's a genius. And he was just like, I can make something out of this. And so that's great. And cameraman Berwin, who shot it beautifully and stuff. And we shot it in New Zealand. But it's crazy that in my little hometown in New Zealand, and this is what this is as well, like the Legacy Lounge, like you can shoot it here in Sacramento, but it goes out to whoever wants it.
Exactly.
And that's fantastic. And so lots of little things. So I think I'll be back, hopefully be back doing more things here and across the country as well. And I just think I'm in this phase of my life now where it's kind of like the work is not so much done, because you can always improve, but okay, we're ready, the confidence is there, and then now let's just go attack it. And I feel like that we're in that vibe and that sphere of my career at the minute. And so as much as this is only for 2 weeks, I think it'll be the first of many that I come back. So,
Oh man,
yeah.
I love it. I love it. And you're in the right place to talk about that. I feel like this is the perfect time to do it. A lot of times we start with, your background and how you get to this point. I like that we started this one with everything that's going on right now. You keep talking about the 10,000 hours and everything like that, but this is a long road to get here, man.
Yeah.
Did you know this is what you were gonna do young? Give me a little bit of background
Yeah.
on you growing up and how you got to this point.
Yeah, so I was like, I was a mute when I was a kid. So I was like, people would look at me and they would go like, does he speak? Like I'd be so afraid to talk in front of people
Yeah.
that I would be at my brother's house, he's older than me, like 10 years older. I'd be at his house and I wouldn't ask for a glass of water because I was so nervous about even to speak to my own family members up until I was about 14, 15. And then something happened in school where this guy who's now one of my great friends, James Livingston, he's a super funny guy, super great guy. He was the funny guy at school, and he was getting all these laughs from the whole class, and he was getting noticed by girls. And I was just looking at him going, oh, it's quite funny. But if he had said this would have been funnier in my head.
Yeah.
And then
Well, that's great.
and then one day I was just, for whatever reason, he said something, and then I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh, you're not going to say that thing? I'm going to say it. And then I said it. Can't remember what it was. It was like a blur. And then I said it, and then no one laughed. Everyone just looked at me like, oh, he speaks?
He speaks?
Yeah. And then it happened again, and they said something again, and then my mate said it, and big laugh, and then I said the topper to it, and it got even bigger laugh, and then I got kicked out of the class because I was disrupting the class. But the kudos that got for me, and like he's the man of like, and then I got invited over to where the cool kids were hanging out at the interval recess, and so it sort of started from this thing of like, oh, if I can make people laugh, good things kind of come from that. And now it's sort of been developing now where it's like, okay, I can make people laugh. And I built from that into to this point now where I'm chatting comfortably with you guys and being on stage and doing these various roles that I do. But it's now not getting to a phase where I don't need it for the approval, if that makes sense. So it's not like I'm doing it to get something. It's now being comfortable, and this is my purpose and my passion, but I'm going to have a crack rather than I need it. I don't need this for my self-worth, but I'm doing this because I think, I'm good enough to do this. I deserve to be in this space. And there's a fine line between doing it for someone else's value or love, or that they think something of you, or doing something because you're excellent at it, you'll put the hours in to do it, and that you can just have a go, have a crack, rather than doing it for some other people. But once and it's only been the last 6 months or so that I've really found this, and I've been doing this for years, like 18, 19 years I've been doing stand-up.
18 or 19?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a long time, but it's now clicking of like, oh, okay, now it's being humble, or being having humility is not, it's an easy thing for you to excuse yourself to not do the thing or not chase your dream. To hold space in your desired area, that takes courage. Also, people are going to look at you and go, who is that? What? And they're going to, even if you're the nicest person in the world, they're still going to go, look at that. He's doing that, and he's the nicest person in the world. Who's that guy? You know, and they'll still try and cut you down. So it's just holding that space. There's always going to be people that say that. And there's always people that are going to look at you and go, you don't deserve to be there, or whatever, or try and cut you down. But to be able to dim your light because to make other people feel better is no longer, it's no longer a thing that I'm going to do. And it's not to say that I'm going to be disrespectful or not.
Of course.
Everyone's talented. Your talent is worthy, and you can shine, as well. And we can both come up together. We can spiral up together. But it's a huge thing for me to kind of click and realize that and go, you know what? I'm going to hold this space and be comfortable in it, be courageous in it. And people are going to come at you regardless. So you may as well do it and have fun doing it, and be passionate about it.
Now that's a great story.
I mean, I just love hearing the just don't dim your light, for other people. I love that.
Yeah.
Man.
And sometimes you can do that, especially with what you guys are doing, and potentially like, this is your hometown. This is where you grew up. So there's people think, oh, well then that's just the fishbowl that you're in.
Yeah.
Like that's the size of the fishbowl. But what you guys are doing with this and spreading it out and doing big things and trying to break the cycle
Yeah.
of just that smallish town or smallish city or just this area type thinking, and go, why not? Why can't we go? For me, like in a small town in New Zealand, why can't I go to America and do a tour?
For sure.
Why can't I do a comedy special? Why can't I speak to as many people as I can? And coming and telling that 14-year-old boy that, hey, this is what you're going to be doing, man, I would, I wouldn't
Wild.
believe, yeah, it's so wild. But I wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah.
But to fast forward that to be chatting with you guys like this, talking about the things that we're talking, gives me goosebumps now here standing up on this on my
man.
thing to tell that young boy, mate, everything's going to be right. Don't change anything. You still got to put in the work, but don't rest on your laurels. But at the same time, if you continue like this, then it's possible.
Man, absolutely incredible. And that's the best part about what we do here. That type of story should be celebrated all day, every day. We all need to hear that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it might have been a situation where we would have got introduced and had a good time in the backyard at passes, but the story behind it doesn't get as much light as it should, because people are going to see you just like last night and on Saturday. They're going to love you, love what you do for them and everything like that, but they don't have any idea the thousands and thousands of hours it's taken to get to that point and things you have to overcome. That's more entertaining to me than anything. So that's what this is all about, and I'm glad we get to hear that stuff.
Yeah. I appreciate you
Man.
guys. Yeah.
It sounds cliche, but I'll say it anyways. But it's a reminder that good stuff in life happens the more at bats you're willing to take.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Renee and I started this podcast just to be, I was going to say a joke when you were, mentioning the Legacy Lounge. I've been doing real estate for 20 years. He's been doing real estate for 20 years.
Yeah.
And we just had a sit down. We're like, I don't think people really love hearing us talk about real estate all the time. This shit is kind of boring. Like, really? How many ways can you twist? Like, you either own a home or you don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We twisted it.
Yeah, we did.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm always in awe of comedians because they're doing something. You're doing something that absolutely frightens the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Which is you're standing up. And I have also look at, like, you could even, like, peel the onions back of we all have different childhood upbringings, right? We all have different traumas, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm a super emotional dude that tends to need a lot of pat on the backs from my significant other.
Yeah.
You're the best, Chris.
So, like, when you're explaining the Chelsea thing, that would have broken me down immediately.
Yeah.
Just the introduction
Yeah.
would have been like, I would have taken it so personal.
Yeah.
The way that she greeted me, it didn't even seem like she wants me here. But, like, you crazy ass dudes, like, got to just turn it, spin it, and maybe even use it for your own material.
Totally.
You know what I mean? I love that.
Yeah, and that was actually for me that exactly at another time, even like 3, 4, 5 years ago, it would have crippled me. And there was not. Also, I would even say there's not even too many other potential comics that that could actually come through that. But because I've done all these different things and then gone, you know what? There's enough examples of me coming through this and pulling through this, and you almost kind of like having to give yourself your own pep talk.
Yeah.
And you kind of like, no, come on. But it's that, it's almost like, I think it's called cognitive brain therapy, where you sort of reframe stuff.
Yep.
So you're going, okay, there was so many negative things that happened at the beginning of that Chelsea thing that it became quite funny. So it was like, well, what else could go wrong? Oh, you want me to introduce myself as well? And I was like, okay, well, now this has become so ridiculous that it's like, there's not, like, this is set up to fail. So the shrugging of the shoulders going, you got this. This is good. You've done this before. And now go out and not prove them wrong because you need them to like you, but because you know you can do it. And if you do it and you win them over, well, that's great. That's a great story. But if you don't, then that's okay, because you can, as you say, you can retell this as a funny embarrassing thing. It's like the Nate Bargatze introduction thing. It's like, it's more awkward. But again, this happened before the show.
Yeah.
So I could have let that
know.
cripple me.
Seriously.
But I ended up having one of the best sets of my life before him. And it was, again, that reframe. I remember I do this thing where I do a lot of like this thing called Freeletics, which is basically on my app on my phone. So because I travel a lot, I need to be able to work out in a space that's like a motel room. Like it's like a prison workout where it's like 2 meters by 2 meters. So it's like burpees and star jumps and like calisthenic type stuff. So I've got this thing where on my app and I open it, I'm like, oh, okay. And it just tells me what to do and I do the workout. But there's things in it where it's like if I'm tired or if I don't want to do the workout, I have my hands on my knees and I do this clap, this clap that I've done for myself that at the end of it, whatever happens, I have to then go in and do the thing. So if it's like a cold shower or if it's like a email I don't want to send or if it's a workout I want to do, I do twice, and then on that sixth one, I just then have to go do it. And it's like, even if I'm tired, my muscles are sore or whatever, then I just go in it. And I train that from doing that workout.
Yeah.
And so when I'm backstage, and I did this in the Nate show, and I did this Chelsea Handler show, before I went on, I gave myself those 6 claps. And then, gave myself those 6 claps. And then I just had to like step forward. And that just trained my brain to go, this is happening. And even then when I did that clap, I went to get up. But I was like, well, no, you can sit down, it's fine. But yeah, little things like that where if you can find something like that where like your partner and stuff like that, because I'm the same. Like if my wife is like, because quite often she'll be like thinking about her own thing and whatever, and instantly I'm like, oh no, I've done something. Are you okay? Are we okay? Is this okay? And she's like, yeah, just someone at work said something to me and I've just been thinking about it. And I'm like, are you sure? Because I feel like it's, and I need that constant, I used to have that constant reassurance, but now I don't. And we check in obviously all the time. And yes, you have those down days where you need it, but at the same time, it's, there's a great power in standing in that truth of like, you deserve to be there. Man. And I feel like if you can stand in that with your shoulders back and give yourselves those little things to kind of remind yourself to move forward and step forward. It's good. Why not? Just why not?
I love it.
We're going to have a go. We're going to have a crack. We're going to fall over. We're going to get up and back again. And
Well, Ian, you signed up for this.
Totally.
I mean, you're a comedian.
Absolutely, yeah.
As I'm thinking about that, I mean, like we live in a world today more than ever where it's got to be a struggle just for comedians to be comedians.
Yeah.
Because of how politically correct you need to be.
Yes.
Right? So I would imagine that if anyone should be able to break through and quote unquote, take it as a joke and move on or make it even into a joke.
Yeah.
It's probably good practice for you and what you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's totally that. And I find that, and that's where the work comes in. That's where the writing comes in. That's where, because there's been a few times where people will say, oh, you can't make a joke about that, or you can't write about that, or there's no way to do a clean version of what you do. There's some jokes that I do that are like, I talk about, divorce and all this kind of stuff from like my parents and things like that. And it's, people love it and they laugh at it. But it took me 2 or 3 months to craft that joke where people weren't going to be triggered. People weren't going to be like, oh no, he said the wrong thing. The people that I'm talking about to accept the joke and go, actually, that's quite funny.
Yeah.
And so, and then now that bit has got like over 1.5 million views on, I think it's on Facebook on the dry bar, like things. And but the reason why it's got it is because people couldn't, they said that you couldn't do it. But I've found a way through persevering and moving on and taking that up bat, that another at bat. But I love that because that's a puzzle that's missing, and you go, I'm trying to figure it out. Like, what piece? I know there's a piece missing. I don't know what it is yet, and it's trying it again and again, and moving on because that joke in front of that audience. So many times where I'm like, I've said to an audience, that joke needs an ending. but come back and see me in a year. And I promise you that bit's going to be great.
Man.
And so, but equally there's so many times where you can fall over. But I think maybe that's why I had to choose this job from what I came from to kind of like, what is the exact opposite of what I'm doing now?
Crazy.
Silent.
Yeah.
Too shy to say anything. Well, what's the opposite of that? Well, being a stand-up comedian
Yeah.
is probably the opposite of that. So, and again, another example of like, we all do these little things to test ourselves, and it's trying to remember those examples. It's trying to remember your CV. I don't know if you've ever like had to put a CV together and then you list it and you kind of go, oh yeah, I did that. I've done that. And you're almost like trying to prove to other people like how many great things that you've done. But it's almost like trying to remember like your personal CV of like, hey, I've achieved a lot of these things, and I would hire me off that. And so it's almost you got to do that for your personal life.
Yeah.
And just go, hey, what was my personal CV again? Oh yeah, cool. So I think it's an interesting part of my life at the minute, and it feels good at the minute.
That's amazing. Now, this internal battle that you've had to continue to put one foot in front of the other, was that somewhat of the inspiration on your short film? I mean, it's literally a comedy about a motivational speaker who has to show up every day on it. Did it come from that?
Pretty much. And like you'll watch it and go, oh, that's just Nick in terms of my acting range. I don't even change I think I'm wearing the same t-shirt. But it's, totally. But again, it's like drawing from real life and kind of going, well, this is, this, and people, the more I travel and the more I go to different places, the more people connect with that.
Yeah.
Your personal story, but in a relatable way.
Yep.
And yes, things are going to be slightly different, but if it's a big thing to be vulnerable, and for you to say, "Oh, I'm a sensitive guy," that's a huge thing to say. But a lot more people will connect with that.
He makes fun of me for saying it.
Yeah, but
I'm not sure if that's a
I
connection.
mean, not to everybody, just to people on the podcast.
Yeah.
Already he's becoming sensitive. Already he's hurt
and
from
there
it.
are the traumas right there.
This is the therapy lounge is the next podcast. But but I think that connects people. People, and it's brave to do that. And sometimes you feel silly doing it, but I think it's important, but you need buddies who are so comfortable with you to be able to go, hey, come on, man, to jive. Because if you weren't comfortable, if you weren't mates, you wouldn't say anything.
For sure.
But you might say someone is, behind your back, oh, why does he say so, whatever. But for it to be out in the open, that there's no behind the scenes things going on.
I'm
here.
trying to
It's
help
like,
him develop as a person.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to do.
So Rene, just to give some context on the story of who he is and who I am. All right?
Okay, right.
So Nick, he grew up in a place called Oakland.
Are
you familiar with Oakland?
I've heard of this.
All right, it's
good at night. I hear.
Yeah, man, no doubt.
So he had to grow up a lot quicker than I did.
And
And he's just teaching me a lot of the life lessons he's learned along the way.
That's all I'm
I
trying
grew
to
up in a
do.
place called Elk Grove, which is basically the opposite of Oakland.
okay, I hear you.
Hey, I want to talk about, because Rene actually brought this up before you came in. Don't you have a podcast as well, right?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Couple of
Well,
them,
I want to
right?
hear about the sports podcast.
Yeah, so it's called the Sporting Rumble, and it's actually on it's like nationwide in New Zealand, like it's on the radio station on the Saturday morning. But it is a podcast where there's me, I'm the comedian on there. There's like a sports journalist, and then there's like a TV sports presenter, kind of like a Bill Simmons kind of
Oh, wow.
kind of guy in New
Wow.
Zealand who's like. He's great. Andrew Mulligan's fantastic. John Day, the sports reporter, is fantastic. And we come together each week and we interview different people from around the world, but also mainly New Zealand, sort of select like All Blacks and different Olympic athletes and so on and so forth. But it's a comedy sports podcast.
That is
And I
awesome.
sort of take on the role of, just being, taking the comedic element or the comedic side of stuff. And
Man.
so they'll come in with the facts and the plays and the coach, the X's and O's, and I'll come in with like, do you think they should, have 5 balls in baseball, you know, like, and they'd be like, yeah. And so, yeah, it's a fun one. And then, so the sporting podcast is great.
Man.
And then another one I do is called Socrates Walks Into a Bar, where it's 3 comedians solve the world's biggest problems that the greatest thinkers could never solve.
That's hilarious.
Over a beer. So we'll talk about like, I don't know, like the trolley problem, you know, where, you know, self-driving cars and all that kind of stuff. Like, do they have to have the philosophy of like who to save? And if someone gets out in front of them, if like a dog walks out in front, do they brake? Or do they, if it's going to kill the people on the inside or whatever, if they don't stop? All these kind of things. And we talk about that, but in a comedic way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's good. It's won different awards and stuff there. So, but it's great. So, yes, that's some of the podcasts, and we have these things called the New Zealand Podcast Awards.
Oh, really?
And it won gold. Both of them won gold. Best entertainment and best sports podcast. And then the craziest thing is we have the radio awards. So like, you know, like for all the radio stations in America, there'd be like radio awards that do that. But our podcast was so good that it became, they put it into the radio awards, but they put it in the wrong category. So it got nominated for best factual podcast, the sporting one. And so the judges were listening to it, and they're like thinking this is the best factual podcast, X's and O's, all that kind of stuff. And they've just got me going like, you know, what is the Olympic sport that you think you could just have a go at and still make it? You know, like breakdancing, of course.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows the answer to that.
So we didn't win that one, but yeah, it was fun. It was fun and funny to, you know, as you say, like put yourself forward to things. I think that says more about the awards element to the New Zealand radio awards, and that there's probably not many people entering it than the quality of our show. So
man, so we got podcasts, we got stand-up comedy, obviously radio as well. You got some TV stuff as well, right?
Yeah.
What don't you do, man?
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't do real estate.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's what I was gonna say. You're jealous of the comedians that are you know, putting themselves out there on stage. We're jealous of you guys for making money. So it's a small trade-off, but yeah, TV it's been good. Although I'm sort of moving away from that just because no one, I don't know what it's like in America, but in New Zealand, like no one watches terrestrial TV anymore. It's all online.
Gotcha. That's what it's moving.
Yeah.
It's still here, but you could tell the younger generation like don't watch regular TV
it's
at
all
all.
YouTube.
Even the Olympics was all clips.
Yeah.
It was all like you watch the you know the version of the race that was like the 10 seconds of the 100 meters, or you know, or the funny thing that happened or whatever. But yeah, so TV, I've done a lot of TV. Sort of moved away from it a little bit because started work on my own projects, and also like part of being like I've got a young family as well.
Yeah.
So I've got a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I'm somehow being listen. I'm now the coach of my 9-year-old's basketball team, and I'm a short guy. I've never played basketball before.
Hold on, why is Nate laughing? I can hear Nate. That's our marketing guy who's responsible for doing on the reels and editing. He's like, and I just hear him just like giggling back there.
Well, you'll like this now. I'll talk the story. So I think that the only reason I'm coach is because I think I'm the only parent that put their real email down for who would like to help out at the for coaching these things. And I'm like, I think I've got some spare time. Anyway, I've been lumbered with and my kids they won't mind me saying this, but they're in the worst league and they don't know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I said I googled some stuff. We're going to play a triangle 3-2 defense.
Yeah, there we go.
And
there we go.
I showed them it on a piece of paper. They said, "Why have you drawn a snowman?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." There's a guy on our team who he just shoots backwards. Like he commentates himself, and he goes for like these 3-point shots and these backward shots and these lobs, and he's never hit like the backboard once. but he commentates himself, and he'll go, and he calls himself H Dog. And I'm like, your name is, I'm not gonna say his name, but his name, he calls himself H Dog, and he just does these big lobs, and he never misses. There's a kid who turned up, who, Healy shoes?
Yeah.
With the wheels
Yeah,
and the thing.
yeah, and he's on the basketball court with Heelys.
So he turns up with basket, and why have you turned up with that? And he said, well, because the ref keeps calling me for traveling.
Where are these kids' parents at?
So I'm the only one. So they just use it as like a drop-off thing. So there's only like half the parents are actually on the sidelines each week.
This is New Zealand, though.
This is New Zealand.
Well, I'm just saying it's New Zealand. I don't think there's a lot of basketball in New Zealand. Is there?
Well,
Okay.
there is, but yeah, we're in the lowest of the lowest.
You basically in New Zealand. I know that you show up in Heelys. That's what I know.
We show up in Heelys. My son, halfway through a game, halfway through the second half of the game, he tugs on my shirt, and I think he's going, put me in the game, coach, type thing. I can take this or whatever. That's what I think he's going to say to me. I look down at him, and he goes, Dad. And I go, yeah, son. He goes, can we go get some sushi? I'm like, dude, we're in the middle of a game. We're 3 points down. We can't, I can't. And this is the other thing. They're never going to make it because most NBA players come from concrete jungle, hardcore, gunfire in the distance. Our kids are playing at a leisure center. So it's like leisure center is in the title. There's a cafe that sells sushi. That's what he was implying that we should go and get. And it's just a nightmare. And these kids are and they're looking for me you're going to save us. And the parents are like, well, yeah, I don't know. It's just a nightmare. And so I'm missing that this week. I've had 3 people text me whilst I've been just before this podcast saying, can you pick up my son to take him to basketball? And I'm like, I'm in America. And then they were like, well,
they won't be here today.
Okay, I guess they're not turning. I guess you're not committed to the team. I'm like, oh gosh. So as well as all that stuff, the family stuff is the rich vein of comedy.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's the one thing that I am trying my hardest, but doing the least well at. I turn up every day. I'm taking a lot of shots, but it's
man.
Ugh.
Well, Rene played collegiate basketball.
Oh, mate.
So I don't know, because the first thing I'm thinking is
any tips, any pointers?
Well, how can we come to New Zealand? I mean,
man,
you would kill it.
Man,
can you imagine?
I'll
be eating sushi while he's drawing up the X's and O's.
Mate, it would be great. And because do you know in New Zealand we have the All Blacks, the rugby.
Yeah.
Do you know that all of our sporting teams are like a thing of that? So our basketball team is called the Tall Blacks.
The Tall Blacks.
So it's all of our teams have to have so the Black Ferns are like a netball team. We've got the Black Caps, which is our cricket team. So they wear black caps.
Yeah.
Do you know what our badminton team's called?
What is it called?
The Black Cocks. And I'm not lying to you. That is actually. I
want to say something right now, but if Marie hears me say this, it'll be the end of it. Because I'm already on thin ice constantly with his wife.
Right.
So I won't say it.
But you've got to understand that they don't think anything is wrong with
that's
this.
normal.
Because it's shuttlecocks.
Exactly.
In their mind, they're like, this, of course. Why would not? How would this?
So the question is, are you a fan of the Black Cocks?
Yeah.
Are they any good?
Listen, to be honest, I'm quite intimidated. So I don't really,
This is so great.
I want to transition though.
Yeah.
On the topic of New Zealand.
Yes. Of course. Yes.
I've traveled.
Wait, hold on. Before you even ask a question, man, I'm just happy the man is in the building,
Turner Sparks is here.
What's going on here, man? Turner is back in here. How are you? Fresh cut?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Come on in. Come on in and say hi, man. Turner, my man.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Your hair looks great,
love,
man.
Yeah.
How are you? Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Man.
I was going to tell Turner. Actually, I was going to send this to him, and this is not scripted, but something was on Instagram last week on the old tight end for Miami, Greg Olson. Yeah. and I sent it to Rene, and I was
man.
going to send it to you, but I forgot. But it was about the rap group that he was in on the 7th floor. Have you heard about that?
The 7th floor crew?
Yeah.
The 7th floor crew. He knew about the 7th floor crew.
Been the 7th floor.
Oh my gosh, that is so great.
Hi, I'll give you some context.
I think he was telling me the last time. Yeah, but you go.
It's the best
Yeah.
music you could ever hear in your life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It-
Highly cancelable.
Greg,
Oh yeah. Oh
Greg,
yeah.
So Greg Olson is like the whitest as you can be white
Right,
tight end, but now he's a retired NFL football player.
right.
Now he does commentary. I'm pretty sure he's still doing commentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When this leaked out though, like probably when that documentary leaked out, I'm imagining it probably wasn't that good for business for him. And
Yeah.
it probably I don't even know what if his wife ever caught wind of it, but essentially he was in a rap group when he was at the University of Miami,
Amazing.
and he
That
leaked
was at the time of Two Live Crew.
Yeah.
And so
Well, Uncle Luke, Luther Campbell,
Yep.
right, was like the godfather of
Yeah.
all these guys.
yeah.
So wasn't the song? It was about all the girls
Yes.
they had sex with on
Yes,
the 7th
on the 7th floor.
of their dorm. I was in school when that came out. you couldn't walk into a house party without hearing the 7th floor crew playing.
Wow.
Crazy.
By the way, everybody was okay with it. Men and women loved it at
Oh
that
my
time.
gosh.
2004.
That's insane.
That
That's
is
insane.
insane.
I had never heard it until he sent it to me, but I was like, oh man, Chris, he's living your dream.
was.
He was.
Yeah, it was easy.
Yes, was.
But New Zealand. So it's got to be one of the most beautiful places in the world to live. Small. I mean, it's small, right?
Yeah, tiny.
How much do you love New Zealand? How much do you love living
Sure.
there?
I'll give you a little, So there's 5 million people there that live there, but it's probably I don't even know what. I was trying to think of like what the equivalent of landmass. It's the same landmass, I think, as England and Scotland, which
Okay.
kind of doesn't really help out here. But yeah, it'd be interesting to get what an American version would be of that. But it's spread out. So there's 5 million people in New Zealand. 1.5 million people live in Auckland, and where I live in Auckland, there's only 1 million that lives in the South Island.
Wow.
So the South Island is, if you're gonna go to the South Island.
Okay.
Really untouched. It's great, but it's a beautiful space to go up. So where I live, I'm like 10-minute walk from the beach and a 6-minute walk from the forest.
Wow.
And it's like really amazing. Like it's so great. The kids, my kids go to a place called Orewa Beach School. So they go to a school that's on the beach. They have swimming lessons and surf lessons in the summer.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. They play football, rugby, all that kind of stuff. It's super safe. We don't have our police don't carry guns. So
that is crazy.
they just ask you politely not to steal.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But that's not to say that there's still a lot of crime.
Yeah.
But-
What is it?
so there but it's relatively, it's pretty safe, and yeah, it's a great place to grow up. We're pretty isolated with regards to imports and exports and things. So things are quite expensive in New Zealand, but we kind of get around it by making our own stuff. And yeah, so we've got a lot of like cool, they call it, so there's this thing called number 8 wire. So we call it 8 wire mentality. So there's lots of farmers, lots of sheep in New Zealand, lots of farming. And there was this, like a fence that was being built or something like that was always like collapsing or something like that. I'm definitely getting this wrong. New Zealanders will absolutely be killing me right now. But there's like this wire that they invented, which was like number 8 wire, which is only invented in New Zealand, and they used on the fences to help, I don't know, keep the sheep in or whatever, or keep them out or whatever it was. But it was invented in New Zealand, and the reason why they did that was because they couldn't make it anywhere else. No one else could have would even need to have this. So they had to make it in New Zealand. So if you invent something or if you do something, they call it number 8 wire mentality. And so that is just us basically saying, this was all before Temu or or AliExpress or Alibaba, or you could like or eBay or Amazon or anything like that. You could order stuff in. So yeah, but New Zealand is fantastic. What would I say about it? To live there, it's idyllic. Oh, here's the big thing I think about New Zealand. So you do have one of two things when you hit 20 or 21.
Mm-hmm.
You get you meet somebody and you get married and you buy a house,
Mm-hmm.
or you go on this thing called an OE, which is an
OE.
overseas experience.
Ah.
So those are the only two things you do.
Mm.
So you either stay at home and like that's it,
Uh-huh.
you know, have wife and kids and that things, or you go off and you do your thing, and you go off for years or months or whatever you want to do. But it's really encouraged
Yeah.
to do that, and then or you go and live in Australia. Those are the three. Those are the three options you have as a 20, 21-year-old.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because it's so small. Yeah.
So-
It's, yeah.
So which one did you did?
I did OE.
Yep.
Yeah, I was in England for like 9 years, and that's where I started doing stand-up, was over in England.
Uh-huh.
And then I learned on the UK comedy circuit, and that's brutal. Like that is, they give you 60, everyone's super drunk. Everyone is like, they are all quite comedy savvy. They're all funny themselves. So they give you 60 seconds to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, they'll tell you that you're not.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you to get off. And they'll, yeah, they will.
That's crazy.
It's
I don't
brutal.
know why, but like everything England bothers me. Like I don't know. People are like, "Have you been to England?" I'm like, "No, and I don't want to go." I heard the food's awful. How's the food?
The food is pretty bad. But
And, like,
they
dude-
have these things that are great. They have these things that are great. Like, the saying that it's bad, they have these things called the pasty, which is kind of like a pie.
Oh yeah, we have a pasty shop
Pasty
in Sacramento.
shop. So there's like a Cornish pasty.
Okay.
And the reason why the Cornish pasty is invented, so there's a massive, so it's like a pie thing. There's a massive crust in it. That's what makes the Cornish pasty its thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now the reason why they did that was because all the miners, it was a way. Now you can eat the crust, but what it was because all the miners would have coal on their hands, so they could eat it, and you would throw away the crust. So it was like a portable crust, and that's what the Cornish pasty was. But now it's become this bougie kind of like, you know, or you know, fill the crust with cheese or, you know, that kind
Yeah.
of situation. They do have things like that. The pub culture's good. The comedy's fantastic. The stand-up comedy's great, but yeah, my wife's English, so I have to be very careful.
Oh shit.
So
That's why when I was like looking at you, Turner, and I was like, yeah, I hate the English people. Turner was like, you weren't even smiling. I didn't even mean that. What I was,
no.
yeah, I just think that they're a little
No.
brash. I watched this documentary in Netflix recently
Oh,
about
okay.
the World Cup. Not World Cup. The
yeah.
what-
Euros.
the Euro Cup,
Yeah.
and it was right when COVID was ending,
Yeah.
and it was in England, and it was England versus. It was the championship game.
Yeah. Oh,
And-
England versus Italy.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And it
At
went into
Wembley.
overtime, but they like took over the stadium, bro, and they were having drunk
Yeah.
riots all day, and it was
Yeah.
out of hand, man.
Yeah, that's pretty scary when you go onto the tube or their metro service in England as well. Like they'll have people that Chelsea supporters, Tottenham, Millwall, and they're just chanting, and it's like the energy in the air is like this is going to kick off.
Yeah.
But it is also so much fun to be in that crowd cheering for. I don't even know who you're cheering for, but it's it's great. They are so passionate about their football that like second, third, fourth tier. It'd be like, I don't know. You were talking about baseball earlier about like the major league and having like the triple A and then double A and A. It'd be like being passionately cheering and chanting and having songs and having 20, 30,000 people cheering a double A.
That's crazy.
But
That's crazy.
starting fights with
Yeah.
the local
Yeah.
with the supporters of the other team.
That's
That is also in the
crazy.
double A. And you're like, what are we doing here, guys? You're like, how are we spending our lives?
So,
Yeah.
so not to cut you off, but so
Yeah.
sounds like once your wife was able to visit and see New Zealand for the first time,
Yeah.
because I'm imagining you met her during your time in England.
No. So
No.
I spent
No?
9 years in England and then moved back and then met an English girl in the first 3 months that I was in
That's
New Zealand.
crazy.
And how we met was a crazy story. So I was on stage, I was doing stand up. She was there for her brother's birthday. She was actually kind of like sick or coming off a sickness or the flu, and she wasn't going to come. And then she ended up coming. And I just ended up having one of the greatest nights of comedy that I've ever had. Just things where like I was emceeing the show, And so I remember this to this day. So, and this is crazy actually. I've just thought about this now. Okay, so there was a front row. There was a guy, a husband and wife. They were sort of maybe in their maybe late 50s, early 60s. And they had their 21-year-old son next to them in the front row. It was a weird dynamic. And it was like, oh, it was interesting. And I started chatting to them. Started chatting to this kid called, the dad first. And like, how, you know, who are you here with? I'm here with my son and my wife. Oh, how old's your son? Oh, he's like 18 or whatever. And I'm like, oh, you're 18 with your parents. You should be out, you know, because the drinking age in New Zealand's 18. So you should be out with your friends and having parties and stuff, or with your girlfriend. And then the dad goes, girlfriend, he'd be lucky, like that, in front of the whole audience.
Dang.
And then the whole audience were like, woo, like that. And then I was like, oh, hold on, mate. I feel like I've got to go into bat for Billy here.
Yeah.
What's happened here? So we start chatting. And I go, what's happening, mate? And he goes, oh, just not as confident and da-da. And it became this like super sad story. And I was like, okay, how am I going to pull this out of the fire? And there was what we call a stag do. Do you guys have stag do, like a bucks night? It was a bucks night and the bachelor party.
Bachelor party.
Bachelor
Bucks
party.
night. Gotcha. I was like, no, didn't know
Yeah,
what they
no,
Funny
no.
thing is, he's saying backs night or bikes night, and Renee's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't say yes. Did I say yes? Trying to be nice.
Yeah, he's good.
I was
love
still
it, yeah.
like,
So there's a bachelor party. Now, I don't know what it is like in America, but in New Zealand, we have like this list of things that you got to do in the bachelor party. So it's like the last night of freedom type thing. So like go, you know, it could be like lots of dares or things like that.
Yeah.
And one of the things on their list was to get a bra to get a bra and to wear a bra throughout the night. So ask someone for a bra or whatever. So there was also like a hen's night, which is what? Bachelorette party. Of course. That makes sense.
There you go. I'm with you now.
There was a hen's night there also. And they have to do things as well.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. So they need to do something on their bachelor party. The bachelorette party's over there. So I go, what's one of the things you need to do? And they said, oh, we've got to get a bra for the thing. I said, okay, this is what's going to happen. So you guys are going to get that bra. The bachelorette party is going to give it to you, but Billy is going to go get it. And the whole crowd goes, rah, like that. The hen or the bachelorette from the party comes up to the front, grabs Billy by the hands, takes him out the back of the comedy club, and then they go like 30, 40 seconds or whatever. And I'm like, oh, wow. This
During
is
the
great.
show.
During the show.
Wow.
This is during the show. And so everyone's going, what's going to happen here? And I even had to say to the audience, I don't know what's going to happen here. Like, I don't know if she's going to get married now or like, you know, if the wedding's off or what scenario. So she comes back. She's holding herself. She's giggling. She goes back and sits down. Right, Billy's nowhere to be seen, and like, what's happening here? So then Billy comes back out, and he's holding this bra above his head like a WWE Championship wrestler, and he's like going like, "I've got it!" like this. The whole crowd erupts. They start chanting, "Billy, Billy, Billy," and I'm like, and like he sits back down. He gives it to the whatever, and he becomes the legend of the night. It's just this amazing story.
Awesome.
And my wife saw that and was like, oh, you did this heroic thing for this boy. You were funny, you were engaging, and then like the rest is history. But here's the funny story about that. Our daughter is called Billy.
Are you serious?
And
That
I've
is
just figured that
awesome.
out now.
And
I'm like,
awesome.
whoa, that's too crazy.
That's you just figured it out now.
Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, our daughter is called Billy.
That's
How do you spell it?
hilarious.
Billie.
Yeah, his name was probably spelled a little differently.
Yeah.
That's wild, though.
But yeah,
What a
but
story.
That was us. That was the first time she met me, and then it was like she contacted me on Facebook, and it was like this weird it was great. But then she's from England, and in my mind I was like, because I was spending half my time in England, half my time in New Zealand, and so in my mind I was like, I've got this partner and stuff, but equally I was like, passport, visa, this could be like I don't have to be kicked out anymore. We'd been married like 10 or almost coming up to our 11th year. So and it's great, it's fantastic. So love it.
Incredible.
So now fast forward to how you and Turner met. I know that Turner, I think you mentioned this when we had you on the pod, but How exactly did you guys cross paths? And it was in Hong Kong, is that correct?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well, first of all, can I ask what? So you were emceeing that show?
Yeah, I was MC.
Okay, so that means he's going up first.
Yeah.
Who went on after you?
Oh, they hated me.
Yeah, yeah, that's the most.
hated
Because when
me.
you're going up next, all you want to do,
Yeah.
you want the MC just to like do some light jokes,
Yeah.
maybe talk to the crowd a little bit,
Yeah.
but just set the room up
Yeah.
so you can go and tell your normal material,
Yeah.
and see if it works.
Yeah.
And when there's been like this like production
Oh, mate.
in front of you, like there's
Totally.
nothing you're gonna do telling your dumb jokes about like the gas station.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's gonna be able to like the crowd's gonna hate
Yeah.
whatever happens next.
The comedian on after me, when I saw him in the green room afterwards, said, "Don't ever do that again."
Exactly.
And I'm like, okay, I won't, because I guess I'm married now. So
Oh,
this
man.
is, yeah. But it was just one of those things where it's like, you had to let it happen, so you couldn't not let it
Yeah, of
happen.
course.
Yeah.
But equally, yeah, if I was the comedian on after me, I'll be like, this guy's never working for me. again.
Oh man.
But yeah,
So
it was
yeah, we met in
crazy.
Hong Kong.
Yeah, Hong Kong.
Do you want me to tell the story?
Yeah, I'd love to know your version of it.
So the story for me was to this day that was the worst set I've ever had in my life.
Right.
Wow.
It was the biggest I've ever bombed in my life.
Oh.
I was going down to do this competition. I'm finding out now. So this is 2010.
Yeah.
You had been doing comedy for like 7 or 8 years.
Since 2005, like the first 2 years, I'd done like maybe 10 or 12 gigs, but from 2007 to 2011, yeah, solidly for about 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
Okay, and I would imagine most people were at about that level
Yeah.
in this competition.
Yeah.
I somehow got into this comedy competition. So it was like basically the best comedians from around Asia
Yeah.
would come to Hong Kong once a year to do this like 30-person comedy competition to see who was the best.
Yeah.
I somehow qualified for it. I had done like 3 sets in my life.
Dang.
All of them to friends in my little local bar
Yeah.
who knew me
Yeah.
personally. So not once was it like a real audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was too dumb to realize that these stupid jokes I had weren't gonna work on a. They were all reliant on my friends knowing who I was.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it till maybe like. So I watched. So we get in. We're on the same night of this competition, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And we met the night before, maybe.
I think so, yeah.
And
we
we-
went, yeah, maybe, because I think we hung out afterwards as well. But I remember, because we went on like that junket as well.
Yeah,
Was
we
that
maybe
before
met
or
like the
after?
first night of the festival. They had all the comedians meet each other.
Yeah.
And we started talking, and we're like, we didn't. Neither one of us knew anybody, so we're like,
No.
let's go out and like party. So we
Yeah.
went out
Yeah.
to like bars around Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And then the next night we're on the show, and I'm like maybe 5th on the lineup.
Yeah.
And I'm watching these comedians go, and the first guy's just like great.
Yeah.
And the second guy's like better, and the third guy's better. And then I was like, oh wait, I'm the worst comedian on this whole thing.
Oh.
Like all of my material stinks.
Yeah.
And it's all reliant on like people knowing who Josh is, that guy in my town I live in. Like, why did I not think of this in advance? None of these people know Josh.
So you also got to realize is that was playing in his head
yeah.
the person before he's going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So he's thinking that in
Yeah.
real time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, in real time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you hear them like, next up to the stage, Turner Sparks. And you're like, oh, this is going to be bad.
Oh.
Yeah. And you're like, I got nothing. I'm not a comedian. Like, what am I? And so I went up, and this is like 15 years ago. So like everyone on earth doing crowd work videos like they do now. But I had seen somebody on YouTube do like crowd work.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, my material stinks. Maybe I can just talk to the crowd. Worst idea. I would have been better off just doing my
no.
material. So I go to the crowd and I'm like, hey, like, I don't know, I can't remember what I said. Like, where are you from or something? And this guy just looks at me and he shakes his head and he goes, no, mate. And I'm like, what? And he goes, no, I'm not talking to you.
Oh my.
And
Damn.
I'm like, that wasn't in the video. In the YouTube video, the guy said something funny. I'm like, I'm relying on you to do the comedy. I got nothing. I needed someone. And so then I said, like, somebody was next to him, some lady. I'm like, oh, what about you? Like, where are you from? And she's like, not me either. I'm not talking to you.
Oh my god.
And then in my brain, like, the whole crowd just in unison shook their head, like, no, you know? And I just babbled for like a couple minutes and then just like walked off stage.
Wow. Did you see this?
So
Yeah.
I remember it very
Yeah, what did you
a little bit differently. I remember it was either the day before, I think it was the day of, or yeah, maybe the day before. I said to you, I was like, oh, so what are you going to do? Like, what's your stuff? And then I remember you saying, I've got like this vague idea about doing this. And I was like, oh, okay.
It was the worst idea you've ever heard.
Well, just the fact that it was like a vague idea. It wasn't even like I've got this bit or I do this thing or I talk about this. It was like, and even the way you said it was like, I think I'm going to do this. And it was this vague idea. And I was like, okay. And I just assumed that you'd been like killing it in China. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, he obviously wants you to do. And I think we were on different nights.
Okay.
I think, but
You watched my
I
show,
definitely
though.
watched it. And
Yeah.
it wasn't as bad as you thought, actually. You actually went well because when you went off, everyone was like, oh, why is he getting off so early? Because it wasn't going as bad as you thought. Because you did like get a couple of jokes in. I remember that.
Oh, okay.
vividly. But
in my
your
brain,
head,
I was like drowning.
yeah,
And the Titanic was falling down on me.
you were that guy that hit his head on the pipe on the way
No,
down.
that guy was about to hit me.
Yeah, right.
Oh
yeah,
my
totally. But I think, yeah. So then that was that. But I remember, so on that competition, I think I did the night before, and they were super. I didn't realize they were super strict on time, and I remember doing really good.
You were allowed to do 7 minutes.
You know, 7 minutes, but you had to get off at
and
7
if
minutes.
you did 7 minutes and 30 seconds,
Yeah.
you lost points.
Oh, wow.
And if you did 8 minutes, they cut your mic and you were kicked out of the competition.
and,
Dang.
and I did
Yeah.
8 minutes.
Oh.
And I did 8 minutes. So I was like, had an amazing set. But the reason why I did 8 minutes was because the set was 6.5 minutes. But because they were laughing, it went to 8 minutes. And so I just finished so rather than like go, okay, I've got to get off, I just went, well, I know this is 7 minutes. It doesn't normally go this well.
Yeah.
So, and then I went off and then I was like disqualified. So me and Turner, and I booked 2 weeks. Like kind of almost not banking on like making at least through the next round, but I booked 2 weeks there, and so me and Turner got kicked out in the first round.
Because the next round was the next weekend.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I think I had done the same thing. I already bought flights to come back. I was like real confident.
You weren't living there at this.
So that was in Hong Kong. I was living 2 hours away up near Shanghai. A
Yeah.
2-hour
Okay.
flight.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Got it.
So I'm like, I'm gonna go down this weekend. I'm like, I might as well book all the flights now because I'll be back next weekend. Because, not realizing my friend Josh wouldn't be there.
So
And then
that's crazy.
Just a total stoner move on your part.
Yeah.
Turner.
it's the worst.
And I did the same thing, but not knowing I had to have a watch.
Yeah.
And then he watches you, and you're now Billy to him. So he's
Yeah.
like trying to take care of you, and then
Yeah.
then misery loves company because you both got extra time.
We both got booted.
We just hanging around and watching the final, and then I think the guy who won that year of our final has never done comedy ever again.
What?
From it.
Yeah,
I think it was
you're-
Tama.
Yes.
Church?
Okay, so he was you don't have to say his last name.
Oh,
just in
sorry.
case. But I remember him now. He was a banker
Yes.
in town.
Yes.
Like a finance guy.
Oh.
And it was, I think, a big part of like who won and who lost. This didn't have to do with us. Like I
Yeah.
bombed and he went over time. So
Yeah.
we were out.
Yeah.
But for everybody else, like a big part of who won and who lost was audience like applause
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
or voting. So he paid for 100 of his friends to come so that they would all vote. So that he bought their tickets to the show. And the winner got like, I want to say it was like $5,000 or $10,000
Yeah.
US dollars.
Yeah.
And most of these comedians were poor and like really
Yeah.
needed. It was like he was the ray gun
Yeah.
of
The
comedy in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Because she didn't she stack the deck so she could get in? Meanwhile, all these like break dancers in Australia
Yes.
couldn't afford the plane ticket, so they couldn't compete. All these local comics like desperately needed the money, and this
Yeah.
guy was like a millionaire,
Yeah.
and he won like the $20,000 or whatever it
Oh
was.
my
But
goodness.
as people in real estate, and even now, just thinking that's actually a great business move to invest, like let's say it's $500 or $600
Yeah, that's probably all it was.
to make 5,000.
Yeah,
You would
probably-
take
Oh,
that investment.
brilliant.
And then he was you're right.
But you also got to be pretty good at something that is not easy to do.
Sure.
I think he was good.
He was good at like giving
Yeah.
speeches on corporate retreats,
Yeah, he's a financial guy.
So that's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
And then you're right, he like retired that night. Which
Yeah.
maybe that's a good move too. You're like one and done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hey, you dropped the mic on the way out,
Yeah.
man.
But then, then we sort of went separate. And then you were in China for like a while, and we sort of kept in contact like briefly. But you got to remember, this was back when it was just sort of email, really. Like,
Yeah.
like Messenger wasn't a thing, or
Yeah,
that
there's no
kind of thing.
Instagram or
Yeah.
But Turner told you like right up front when you guys met how hard hardcore of a Sacramento Kings fan he was. He told you that like right up front.
Immediately.
Yeah, yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Was telling, Walt Williams,
trying
Lionel
to, like-
Simmons.
He was trying to, like, in the middle of Hong Kong, he, like, reposition the lights in the air or something like that. It was just this weird, like,
the
follow
beam.
Light the beam before the beam is here.
I started the beam actually in Hong Kong.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That was my plan when I won that competition. I was going to light the beam off the top of the comedy
Oh,
club.
that's great.
I was doing jokes about the train to get into. I took the L train. No one got it.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
that's
The Lionel Simmons material wasn't working.
But yeah, so that was great. And then we sort of it was COVID actually, and then you were about to release an album, and I reached out and said congratulations, and we just started chatting, and I think we sort of bonded over the fact that we'd both like somehow chosen this clean comedy path, and and there's not sort of too many people that are doing that.
Yeah.
And so then and Turner, as I said to you before, is super nice, I'm so proud of this guy because he's smashing it and doing fantastic, but he's also so giving when it comes to advice or like contacts or going, hey, you should try this or whatever. And it's very rare to have that because that's not scarcity mode. That's like, okay, if I give something, then we can sort of spiral up together, and I think that has to be commended, and that's why I'm super proud of him this weekend at the Sophia Theatre to have like let's sell it out at Sophia Theatre this weekend and support this guy because he's so giving, and it's a rare quality in the stand up in a cutthroat world. And
I just gotta say, not to like turn this into everybody's kissing each other on the cheek, but that's the word. Same thing though. So when COVID hit, we started doing a ton of Zoom comedy shows together and getting paid pretty well.
Yeah.
Because he was booking him for New Zealand corporations.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like you started a business, and then so he was like, hey, like the show's at 3 a.m. New York time. Do you want to jump on Zoom at 3 a.m. and do a 10-minute set, and I'll pay you like a few $100s?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. I was sitting around, all the comedy clubs in America were closed. I'm sitting around doing nothing, and I could wake up. My wife would be like, why are you yelling into the computer at 3 a.m.? I'm like, I'm making a living.
Because we ended up doing
And it
like
would be the
maybe
middle of the day in New
Yeah,
Zealand,
yeah,
right?
we
And
were-
we would do 2 or 3 a day sometimes.
we did a triple up on one day.
Yeah.
We did back to 3.
I was making more money than like any of my friends in
Yeah.
comedy.
Crazy.
And it was all because of you. So.
Oh no, it was But again, it was because I was like, because my buddy with Taryn, who's my business partner in Laugh Club NZ, when we put this together, and it was like, it was just a no-brainer because you've been so helpful, and it's kind of like I already owe him one. So but it's great, but also equally with that, you got to be good.
Yeah.
And
No question.
and because it's our reputation at the end of the day, and it's like, if you vouch for somebody, you've gotta, as much as friendships and all that kind of stuff, but if they're not of our level,
For sure.
you have to they have to step up, and Turner is not only at that level but higher, so it's great. It's an easy sell.
Because you guys, this is the first time you guys have seen each other since when?
Oh, maybe you came down to Melbourne. We did some
We saw
shows
each other in Australia last year.
That's right.
Okay.
We were both at a festival,
Yeah.
Melbourne Comedy Festival. Or was
And
that 2
then-
years ago?
I think that was a couple of years ago because I helped Turner and with another buddy of ours get some gigs in Sydney as well, which was fantastic. And he did great. And you can pretty much go back there anytime you want right now. Like,
Yeah. It's been great, but it was all because he's put a word in at
Yeah.
the club. And in Sydney, Australia, now I have a place like the big club in town because of Nick.
Yeah.
I go like once a year.
Yeah.
For a couple weeks.
Bigger
Right.
than that, not to like compare, but
Yeah.
now Nick's got a place here in Sacramento.
Yes,
Yes,
he
it does. Legacy Lounge.
Because of Turner and
Yeah.
because of Joe. So there you go.
Yeah.
I think just the moral of this story is that we're constantly trying to get back the debt.
Yeah.
And we're in this infinite loop of trying to do nice things for each other.
I'm sweating. I'm like, God, now I got to help him out. Jeez.
Yeah. What do we do get for the
Just
50th
stop.
year? Yeah.
But it is crazy, not as the question of like seeing each other. When something about the world now, when you see someone, because during the pandemic, I would say a solid like year to 18 months.
Yeah.
We were seeing each other almost every day,
Yeah.
doing these like corporate comedy things.
Yeah.
So then when you see each other in person, it doesn't feel like you haven't seen them.
Yeah.
True. That's
It's an
true.
odd thing. You're like, I guess I
Yeah.
haven't seen you in person in a decade, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But yeah.
So-
yeah.
Not to cut you off, but I want to ask you, so is it just you two, or I saw you made a post and it looked like there was 4 guys total. on this run right now?
We just added for Saturday night. We just added our buddy
that's great.
Keith Lil Jensen, who's a friend of mine who opens for me a lot when I'm in the area, but he's a headliner in his own right. And we all went down last night. I don't know when this comes out, but we went down Tuesday night, whatever, to do the Throckmorton Theater in
Mill
Mill
Valley.
Valley.
Yep.
You're talking about it?
Yep.
And Keith was on the show, and we had like a great time. And I'm like, the whole time I'm like, why isn't Keith doing this show on Saturday with us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this morning I just asked him, I'm like, hey, by the way, do you want to do Saturday, like at the B
Yeah.
Street? And he's like, yeah, I'm in. I'm like, all right, cool. So Keith's on now too. So it's the three of us.
That's
Yeah.
So we want to
awesome.
help get the word out and have people purchase tickets. Are there still tickets available for the show? There are? Okay, cool. So chime in a little bit just about Saturday.
Okay, so the best place to go, turnersparks.com. Just my name, TRNERSPARKS.com. There's a link. I mean, there's a list of my tour dates. Just click on the Sacramento link, and it'll take you straight to the B Street Theater website. So it's the Sophia Home of the B Street Theater is the name of the venue.
Okay.
Yep.
And
Did you do something, Nate?
Oh, there's a poster down there.
Oh, look at that, man. He was just trying to give it to
Wow.
him. Look at that.
where did these come from?
Man.
Okay, cool. Look at that. Yeah, right there. That's me. That's Nick. So we'll be there. So the Sophia, home of the B Street Theater, Saturday at 7 p.m. It's an all ages show that we're clean. The show's clean. So we're saying like 13 and up or whatever. You know, and
Yeah.
somebody's old enough to hang out and watch a show,
Yeah.
essentially. And then, it'll be the three of us, all new material for all of us. And then we're doing an after party down the street. So you guys are coming to all of it.
Man.
Can't wait.
Man.
Got an
Right.
ink or?
Oh, the after party's at the Golden Bear? Is that what it's
Golden
called?
Bear.
The Golden Bear.
Man.
Oh.
I've spent
Yes.
many a night in that
We're
place.
gonna have some fun. I was just telling Joe that the buddy that I met Joe and his wife through is gonna be taking Rene and his wife's place because he's got to go flying out for softball tournament,
I'm
which is
so bummed.
which is his
I'm
life.
I'm so bummed.
We're gonna be my fiance Weston and Stephanie. We're gonna be ramped up and ready to go to hang out with you guys, watch you guys. It's gonna be amazing.
Cool, yeah. And then we're all walking right down the streets of the Golden Bear after.
Golden Bear's great,
Yeah,
man.
so-
Golden Bear's great.
I'm fired up.
Oh man, that's amazing. Well, let's get back to you though. Here, after this weekend, you absolutely crush it in Sacramento.
Yeah.
You've come such a long way, and you've just hit your stride. What's next for you in the future, man?
Yeah, so I'm off to Santa Cruz
Yeah.
next week, and then I think I'm saying this wrong, but Manteca,
Manteca? Mhm.
Manteca as well, and then that sort of rounds off this tour.
Yep.
And then I'm off to Fiji
Wow.
and doing some shows in Fiji, and then I'm going to be doing some stuff in and around New Zealand, and then Brisbane, and then Australia. But then the goal for me is to come back and do more and to do more extended runs.
Yes.
And and just to keep coming back and to keep growing in the markets here, and just keep plugging away. I've got lots of little things, irons in the fire with regards to short films and TV stuff and sitcom ideas and things like that. So it's just kind of watch the space really. And I guess if you want to get involved, it's like Nick Rado Comedian on Instagram is the best place to follow me. I put all my stuff up there. But it's trying to, was chatting to Turner earlier, it's kind of like, getting into that theater vibe and trying to, build that audience and keep on coming back and go bigger and better. That's it.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Mm-mm.
I love it. I love it.
And we have a question that we usually end this with, but what does legacy mean to you?
What does legacy mean to me? It means that when your children's children go, how good was that guy? Because you always have someone in your family where it's like, oh, there was someone in the family that was either great or there was like the black sheep of the family that we don't talk about. Hopefully I'm on the other side of that coin. And it's like, oh, we had someone who went to jail for this in the family. And it's like,
Man.
but then hopefully it's that, like, it's carving that way. For me and my family, it was my great-grandfather, who weirdly I'm named after. My actual last name is Nicholas Radovanovic. He came from Croatia and he escaped communist Croatia to come and live in New Zealand. and he started everything. And so every single Radovanovic in New Zealand is descendant from me. So
Wow.
and descendant from him. And so he started that, and he sort of broke the cycle of just kind of going, there's a better life out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And so he made that jump. And so for me, that's the legacy that he has built. And so it's my time to now go. And then also, did you know we had a stand-up comedian who killed it in America and around the world and all that kind of stuff, and embarrassed himself in front of Nate Bargatze? So for me, legacy is like trying to make it memorable beyond just your current generation.
Man, it's your time, man. It's your time. I'm loving every bit of that story, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
Awesome.
you guys.
Awesome. Well, hey, we out.
We're out, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you guys.